Hey everyone, what's going on? And today we are covering Heavy Hitters on our vlog. Are you even ready for this right now, Sarah?
I don't know. This is a pretty massive experience we're about to have.
This is pretty intense. This is our setup for a two-player game, and it is just extensive of all the stuff that you need to know and need to keep track of.
I think for a tabletop miniatures game, it's really not that intense.
No, I wouldn't think so.
I'd say it's definitely like one of the beginner level tabletop miniatures games.
Yeah, if you go to Warhammer,
yeah,
40K or Age of Sigmar, you're gonna be like
Blood and Plunder, or things like that. Some of the tabletop miniatures games have some really intense rule systems, and this one is, I would say, definitely like beginner level tabletop miniatures game. We've played once.
Yep.
Last night we learned the rules. I died. It was sad. So today we're going to play again, and armed with the knowledge that I gained yesterday, just kind of about how the game works and like what my faction does and that kind of stuff, I'm hoping that today I can try something a little bit different than what I tried last night, and maybe I can have a better outcome this time around.
Indeed.
Do you want to talk about how to play, or do you want me to?
I can go over real quick. So what you're trying to do is with your heavy hitter and all your support units, you want to go ahead and tag these buildings with these little tag pieces. And those little tag pieces will go up, or like so. And you want 4 of your color on the building, and once you have 4, you can destroy the tower, and then there's a place for your tag, and then so once you do that and destroy 4 towers, you immediately win the game. Or like what happened yesterday, I took out Sarah's heavy hitter, and that automatically you will lose, or if you were the one to take out the heavy hitter, you will win the game. The game is pretty intense. Again, I say pretty intense. It's just
it is intense. I mean, usually we play games like, we've recently on the channel, we've played like Mo Money or Farm and Score, or Mariposas, the game, right? Yeah, or Mariposas, or so like we do tend to play much lighter games than this, and even when we play heavier games, I would say that there's probably lighter than this.
There's a different, it's miniatures games, and all the like little miniature stuff is kind of like a different beast within the gaming hobby, because there are sometimes rulers, dice have different effects, and and
you've dabbled in a few. You played Star Wars X-Wing for a bit.
Yeah.
I think you played Armada a handful of times, right? Star Wars Armada. We have some of the stuff for Blood and Plunder, which is a pirate-themed tabletop miniatures game. We have like the rule book for it, which is actually like a thick-bound book. And we have, I think, 2 of the pirate factions, so we could do like head-to-head skirmishes.
Or 2 factions, like
I think other than that, though, we don't have a ton of experience with tabletop miniature games.
Yeah,
right?
not a ton of experience, because they take just a lot to kind of. It's a lot of headspace, and you have to be on top of.
The barriers to entry are pretty high for tabletop miniatures games. Usually, there is some pretty extensive setup involved, whether that's like building and painting your own miniature armies, or whether it's consuming a thick actual book of rules,
or having the right parameters and space for your miniatures game, because it's just, some of them will say you have to have this. Well, I don't have a table like that, so now I have to go to a game store or play on a smaller area, and maybe you want that full experience because you have your fully painted army.
But I feel like if you wanted to get into a tabletop miniatures style game, that something like this would be a good place to start, because everything you need is in the box, and it was an expensive box, but everything you need is in the box. You don't have to do any painting. All of this is came standard.
Well, that came standard, but you
could do like add-on painting to some of the more like standard miniatures, I guess, but it's completely unnecessary.
Yeah, because those are your support units.
Right,
and
so you don't have to do any painting, you don't have to build anything, you don't have to worry about glue or, ginormous rule books, or you can just kind of get a little bit more into the actual
the meat and potatoes itself, and the gaming.
And then if you find that you like it, then you can, graduate up into something a little bit more.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of people. There are a few people on, well, I say a few, but probably a bunch of people on YouTube that will talk about the barriers of entry and how to kind of get yourself started. Don't get the whole Warhammer Age of Sigmar starter deck, starter box,
2,000 man army, and expect that you'll be able to put it all together and paint it in a week.
Yeah, because putting some of those together, some of those miniatures are very finicky, and so again, just a huge, just that high barrier of entry. Yeah. And if you don't care, you can play with your stuff unpainted. But then sometimes there's the shame factor that comes in, and miniatures gaming, where some people will kind of scoff at you. It's like, okay, well, I don't want to spend all my time painting, and some people might just cringe at what I just said. But I know
that's something that even if I felt like I had the time and the mental energy to spend on a tabletop miniatures game, I still don't think that I would be super excited about painting the miniatures. I think in theory it would be really cool, right? Because I could make my army look however I wanted, but I also know that I am not a very skilled artisan of any kind. So I'm not a super creative person. I'm more mathematically minded. So when it comes to creativity, I'm not always very good with that kind of stuff. And then I tend to get sort of frustrated with myself. So I think even if I wanted to play a big full scale tabletop miniatures game, painting my army would probably be one of the major barriers to entry for me personally, just because I know that I would not be happy with what I would be able to do. And I wouldn't want to spend the time and effort needed to build up my skill in order to be good enough to do what I wanted to do as far as my armies were concerned. So that is definitely a barrier to entry for some. But in this game, we don't have to worry about that because everything is pre-painted and there's nothing that you have to do to be able to jump right into the game. You don't have to build anything other than these little cardboard things, which are fairly easy to build. You don't have to worry about building miniatures or gluing anything or painting anything, or you just have to read the rules and get started. And you can even play this as a solo game as well.
Yes.
So
yeah. So what we're trying to do is destroy each other's heavy hitter, tag 4 buildings, and after we tag it 4 times on 4 different faces, because you see little hexes, you gotta tag each side, and then once you get 4, you automatically will destroy that building, and then you'll put your tag. There's a little rubble under it that will show later on in our vlog. But then also there are sponsors, so you can get sponsored cards through tagging, and also sponsor achievements through attacking opponent, having so many...
that was one thing that I enjoyed last night was if you tagged more buildings in a round than your opponent did, or I think if you did a few other things, you could get these sponsorship cards, and they were sort of special abilities that you could use at different phases of the game to give you some sort of desirable outcome. And they were neat. They added a little bit of flavor, they added a little bit of variety, and they were, to me, it seemed like they were relatively easy to get. And then they were neat to be able to actually use in the game.
Yeah. Well, all right. So we're gonna go ahead and jump into GKR Heavy Hitters from, let's see, Weta Workshop
and Cryptozoic Entertainment.
Yep. And Weta Workshop does a lot of movie kind of stuff. So movie.
Were these some kind of movie?
No, they weren't kind of movie. It was just kind of they're inspired. They did a lot of miniatures, and they are known for in the movie business for costumes, and I might be getting it all wrong, but Adam Savage from what's it called? Mythbusters did a walkthrough, and I think he even did a little bit on this game when it first came out, because just the amount of production that was put into it.
Yeah, it has a really cool table presence. Nick set it all up yesterday while I was otherwise engaged, and when he was like, okay, I'm ready, like let's, go play the game, I walked in and it was like all set up, and it just looked really cool to have like these, three-dimensional sort of board and having like the big robots, and it's got some table presence to it for sure.
So, all right, let's get to it. We will come back mid-game and talk to you guys more about how we're doing in GKR Heavy Hitters. Dun, dun, dun. Toodles! How's it going?
It's going well. I have destroyed 2 buildings, and Nick has destroyed 1. And we are fighting very violently over this one particular building. Right now, Nick has 3 of the 4 things that he needs to win the building, and I have 2 of the 4. And then I have just 1 on this building over here, which no one has.
No one else is at?
Yeah, no one else is at just yet. So, it goes.
Yeah, I'm not looking too good right now. I'm fighting you on this building. You already have 2 claimed buildings, or destroyed buildings. So, and I only have 1. And you're already farther on the track than I am. And you've been keeping the Glory Hound, which lets you go first in movement and also in attacking. Or in a lot of other situations in the GKR Heavy Hitters game. But yeah, what are you thinking so far? I know this is kind of like not your kind of
this
game,
isn't
but
typically the sort of game that I enjoy.
This is something I kind of like more enjoy, and
yeah,
it's one of those things that you just play with me.
I think generally I don't really like combat heavy style games.
But it also has that tagging aspect where you have to.
Yeah, I think so. The first time we played this game, I was kind of frustrated by like the theme, because there seemed to be 2 opposing goals in the game, and one was that you would tag these buildings here, and the other one was that you would engage in combat with the opposing team. And I was like, I feel like if it were me in this situation, I would either prioritize the tagging of the buildings or the combat, but I don't know that I would feel like it was a good idea to balance both of those things, because if combat is the most important thing, then hey, let's fight. Let's just have a dogfight in the streets. But if tagging is the most important thing, then let's try to strategically sneak around and tag as we can. So to me, it seemed like this weird sort of tug of war where you had these 2 opposing goals that you were trying to balance, and they didn't work well together or make any sense. But I was also trying to play the game in the way that I thought that they wanted me to play the game. Whereas this time I'm just doing more of what I want to do. And it's making more sense, and it's cohesing better, if that's a word. So I think that it's a decent combat game. Like I said, that's not typically this sort of game that I enjoy. Instead of having a head-to-head fight, I'd rather build something, or try to get an engine going, or things like that. So these sort of battle games are not necessarily my thing, but this one is neat as far as the pieces. Moving the big robots around is kind of cool. It looks really good. It's very thematic. It sort of makes sense. I wish there was a little bit, I don't know, I wish some of the components were a little bit different just in their general layouts, because I feel like that would help with the mental flow of the game.
Yeah, and there's no player aids.
There's no player aids. There are these cards which are supposed to help you when you do attack and defense rolls. But that's the only sort of player aid there is at all.
And that's not just this game. There's a bunch of games that have that same issue.
Yeah.
But we're just saying, this is just one of those another one of those games that needs a player aid for the player. I
do think a player aid would be really nice. And I also think, like I said, I think just to a certain extent, if there was a little bit more, mental flow that could happen among your components, I think that could really help with keeping track of how everything works in my mind. But that being said, I think The production is very good. This is all straight out of the box. We didn't do anything to any of this stuff. So like the production is really good. I think that the table presence is really neat. Like once you actually get embroiled in the scuffle here, like it starts to look really cool. And I think that the tagging is really fun. I think the battle part, like I said, that's not really exactly my sort of flavor, my preferred like style of play. But the tagging I think is really fun. And
the
sort
sponsoring
of
is kind of fun too. I like the sponsoring.
Yeah. Sort of battling over like who's gonna get control of a tower with the tagging is neat. So there's some cool stuff here. I think if you're looking for an entry level tabletop skirmish experience, that this is one I would try maybe. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, we'll get back to you guys once we get to the end of the game, and we will discuss who is, or say who is the winner and the loser of Heavy Hitters. So until then, toodles! Hello, winner of the Giant Killer Robot Heavy Hitter game. So you tagged 3 buildings to the point where you could, or tagged 4 buildings to the point where you could destroy them, and that automatically won you the game. I almost killed you, but then...
I don't know about that. I still had 10 cards. It would have been a battle.
But I had some things to attack you with, but I wasn't able to get you in time. But yeah, so you ran away with your... You tactically...
So
no. You didn't run away. You tactically retreated.
Yep. I was over here, and we were, like, engaged in a battle for, like, a couple of rounds in a row. And then I knew that I was finally able to take over this tower here. So
yeah, we fought over that tower
safely,
for quite a bit.
Yeah, I knew that I could safely leave this area without losing, like, any of my progress over here. So one of my turns with my heavy hitter, I just ran like as far as I could to get away from your heavy hitter. Because I knew if I could just stay alive, I could probably take over one more building and win the game. So I didn't even I used all of the energy I had that turn to just get away as far as I could.
And I couldn't kill your stupid recon unit.
Yep.
I was whiffing with all the dice. And I was just like, I had this big giant gun go poo-poo, poo-poo. And it just missed. It just totally whiffed. And this guy was dodging left and right through all my bullets, through all my missiles and stuff. If I only had an orbital thing, or I played that kamikaze card to take a recon unit and smash something else, I would have been able to at least maybe prolong my suffering for another round, but I could not.
I think even if you would have done that,
it wouldn't have. I don't think it would have mattered.
I would have given up on this building right here, and I would have ran behind that building over there, because then I would have had some cover. But I could have converged my guys on that and taken that tower in like 1 or 2 rounds.
I feel like you got to the point of tagging a lot faster than I did. I was kind of... And see, that's kind of the problem in these games with me, is like, I'll go ahead and try to just kind of attack more than like tactically spread out my guys and keep having my guys continuously.
It is risky though, because like one of my support units, I think it's this one right here. Yeah, this one right here. This is my repair support unit, and if he's adjacent to my heavy hitter, then I can try to get cards
you can try to
out of my damage section.
But like, you were taking so much damage so quickly that, and I had some cards to do more damage, but you were out of range with all of them.
Well, if I could have gotten him adjacent to my heavy hitter, instead of choosing to attack with him, I could have tried to heal a little bit. But I felt like for a period of time, it was more advantageous for my units to like spread out over here where they were kind of safe, and then start tagging the buildings as quickly as possible, than to actually use them for like their abilities.
Yeah.
So I didn't actually attempt to use him to repair, not even once in the game. I considered doing it one time, but I never used him to repair. So I kind of feel like...
I think maybe you use it in like a higher player count.
Maybe, or maybe if... I don't know, maybe if we're playing like different factions or something like that, maybe you would do it. But yeah, anyway.
So this was Giant Killer Robots, Heavy Hitters from Weta Workshop and Cryptozoic Games. and
Cryptozoic Entertainment.
Entertainment, and it's pretty good. I like it. I know Sarah's not much of this kind of type of game, but, I'm glad you were able to play with me.
Yeah, me too. And if you're looking for like an introductory level tabletop miniatures game, or something that will, sort of introduce you to that genre of games, I would check this one out if you have the option and are so inclined, because like we said near the beginning of the game, tabletop skirmish games or tabletop like miniatures or war games are a little bit different than board games, and they feel different. It's a different mindset that you need in order to play them.
Yeah.
And I would say that this is a good introduction if you're trying to make the leap from being a board gamer to a tabletop miniatures gamer.
And then you can also be both,
Yeah, you can be both, but if you're trying to jump from one to the other, or if you're just trying to start
dip your toe.
Yeah, and you have some board game experience, then this would be, I think, an easy way for you to transition to the tabletop wargaming, because it has some things that are familiar if you're a board gamer, the board and the cards and the dice and stuff like that, but it also starts to get you to think in that mindset.
Like line of sight and
exactly
what kind of cover and partial cover and no cover.
Yeah. So I think it's good for transitioning from tabletop from board games to like tabletop miniatures or war games.
Yeah. So. Well, I'm glad we got this one to the table. It's one of our games that we were kind of like, must get this to the table before we can play like something that we want to, not like, that
we made a list. We have a good chunk of our collection is games that we have not played or have only played one or two times, a while back. So we made a list of games that we had not played that were in our collection, or that we had played like a very long time ago and we wanted to try again. And we said we are going to attempt to play these, I think it's like half a dozen games games before we allow ourselves to play
something
like games we know and are excited to play.
Or like maybe one of our new purchases. Because of this one, we got this maybe last year at a Black Friday sale. Because
we did, yeah. We saw it at a convention. I don't remember which one.
No, well, we saw it at Gen Con.
Okay.
It was like when it was getting demoed.
2 years ago?
I want to say it was
3
like
years ago,
maybe our first Gen Con.
So that would have been, I think, 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, you saw it and you wanted to get in a demonstration of it. Were you able to do that?
I wasn't. It was
I didn't think so.
I had a demonstration, but then somehow that fell through where they were
doing like
these, they had a lot going on.
Yeah, they had like appointment demonstrations by appointment only kind of thing.
It was a little frustrating because I think I came like maybe a minute late. But it was also Gen Con. It was like my first Gen Con. But
Gen Con is a strange creature. Yeah. So they were doing like demonstrations by appointment only, and unfortunately you were not able to have a demonstration, but you saw it there and you were interested in it there. And then we did buy it at a Black Friday sale, I want to say last year?
Yes, last year we did buy this at a Black Friday sale. This is another buried entry. It was, I think, $150.
It was very expensive.
It was It was one of our more expensive games. I mean, if you're buying Kickstarters every day, then by all means, this is probably pennies to what you're spending on Kickstarters. But you get.
But if you're buying like $20 hobby games, Cat Lady or Archaeology, The Lost Expedition, or like things
even like
$40
games.
Yeah,
like,
even
whatever.
like $40 games, you could buy like 3 or 4 for the price of this one.
Yeah, so this is like something you really want to kind of make sure you want to play, and this is going to stick around. I enjoy it.
Though, at that sale, we were able to get.
We were able to get it cheaper.
Yeah, they were having some kind of special. I don't remember what it was. It was at Game Theory in Raleigh, North Carolina, which we've recently done a board game store like walkthrough sort of video.
Yeah.
So you should check that out. It's on the channel. It's a really cool store, and they don't have sales very often, but every year they do have like a very impressive Black Friday sale where almost everything in the store is like some percentage off, or there are like special package deals or that kind of thing. So
I think we actually got this for $100. I could be wrong, but I know.
I don't remember exactly what it was, but I remember that we were able to work out sort of like a deal where you were able to get this one, which was the most expensive one that you were hoping to get, and I was able to get Rise of Queensdale, which was the most expensive one that I was looking to get, and we were able to like get both of them
some kind of percentage.
Like both of them for the cost
because we were spending
of
a good bit of money
or something like that. I don't remember exactly what it was, but they cut us a really, really good deal on those two games. And then I think we may have picked up a few other ones that were also on sale as well. But I was really excited to get both GKR and Rise of Queensdale. Like,
because both of them are pretty, you know, those are both pretty good games.
Well, yeah, and Nick really wanted GKR. He'd seen it at Gen Con, and he knew that it was a game that he wanted to get. And I had been doing some research on Rise of Queensdale, and I really wanted to get that. But that was another expensive one. I think it was like $80 retail. So like I said, we worked out a deal, and I think what we did was we paid for one of those games, and we ended up getting both for the cost of one. I think is how
I think is also like, you know, some of these games will sit on the shelf, and that will cost a company just shelf space. And so I think it was there for a little bit. Nick and I were
both able to get the game that we really wanted at a price that was acceptable to us at the time. So that was cool. And now we've gotten to play both of those games almost a year later. We've gotten to play both of those games, and I am very, very pleased with Rise of Queensdale. Yeah. I am loving our campaign through Rise of Queensdale. It has been, so far, the best legacy experience I've ever had. Not like by far, but I am really, really enjoying it. It is definitely the best legacy experience I've ever had. And we've played Pandemic Legacy Season 1, Seafall, Charterstone, the Clank Legacy. I think we played a couple of other ones, but Rise of Queensdale, I'm just absolutely loving it. And then you got to play GKR today and yesterday.
Yeah,
and
so
you're pleased?
Yeah, I'm pleased. I was glad. So yeah, I was glad that we got to, sorry for that noise, play this, because I like these kind of midway point miniatures games where it's not too intense and it's not too crazy and you're not painting all these and putting these things together, because, you know, that's kind of what stopped me from playing, I think, Age of Sigmar when that first came out, because I like did it and I was like, okay, I got all these things, and all of a sudden I was trying to put things together and I got frustrated because some pieces were very finicky and breakable, and then I ended up just selling it. But I've always been interested in getting in that kind of space, and this is kind of like how I kind of got in that space. I have some other games that are similar, that are like kind of a midway board game, you know, war game point, but really enjoyed this. If you are interested in that kind of like war game, board game feel, I definitely recommend GKR Heavy Hitters, Giant Killer Robots. Come on, Giant Killer Robots. It's awesome. But yeah, I enjoyed it. There's different players to play, different setups to do for your buildings. They can be in different places. You can force, like, you know, if you put the buildings closer, you're forcing people to get into more combat and more, you know, hurry up. The game will go by faster because the buildings, your robots will be able to tag more buildings quicker. But yeah. Really
There's a solo version as well?
There's a solo version. I haven't played that yet, but looking forward to that. But yeah, so this is kind of one of my big miniatures games that I finally got to play, and I'm pleased with it. So yeah. Well, this was Giant Killer Robots, Heavy Hitters, and I'm glad you all joined us for this board game vlog. Until next time, we will talk to you guys later. Bye!